On March 21, 1980, two murders happened in Philadelphia. One became part of the city's criminal history. The other almost disappeared. That same gray, rainy day, 25-year-old University of Pennsylvania graduate student, Julie Ann Revson, was found dead inside her West Philadelphia apartment. A knife was reportedly lying nearby. There were no clear signs of forced entry. Neighbors reported hearing no screams. No one saw anyone leaving the apartment. And for more than 4 decades, no one has ever been charged. The case remained cold. But now, 46 years later, one question has brought Julie's name back into public view. If that knife still exists, could modern forensic testing finally reveal the person responsible? Julie Ann Revson was not supposed to become a forgotten name in an old case file. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a student, a young woman building a life in the city where she had grown up. Julie was a Philadelphia native. Before she became a graduate student at the University of Pennsylvania, she attended Northeast High School, where she was remembered as someone involved, bright, and full of life. She was a cheerleader. She was part of the choir. Later, she graduated from Lake Erie College in Painesville, Ohio, and continued her education at Penn, pursuing graduate studies at the Annenberg School for Communication. People who knew her remembered more than her accomplishments. One college classmate described her as fun, calm, and outgoing. Someone who could be different from you and still make you feel close. Her older half-brother Ethan later described her as intelligent, but also trusting. She liked people. She believed in people. That detail would later feel painful, because when a person is trusting, the unanswered questions can become even harder to live with. In 1980, Julie was 25 years old and living in West Philadelphia. She had recently moved into the El Vista apartments at 4530 Osage Avenue, on the 4500 block of Osage Avenue, with Thomas Wheelock, a fellow graduate student connected to Annenberg. Tom and Julie had not started as a simple love story. When they met, Julie reportedly told him she was not looking for a relationship, but after their first date, they quickly became close. She moved into his off-campus apartment only a few weeks before her death. It should have been a new chapter. A young graduate student living near campus, studying at one of the most respected universities in the country, surrounded by the energy of Philadelphia and the life of a college neighborhood. But by the afternoon of March 21st, 1980, that apartment would become the center of a mystery that still has not been solved. That morning, Julie and Tom headed out for the day. Tom later said he went to the nearby Gimbel Gymnasium, where he was playing basketball. According to Matthew Algeo's later Daily Pennsylvanian column, Tom returned to the apartment at around 3:15 p.m. NBC, later described the time more generally as that afternoon. When Tom came back, he found something no one should ever have to find. Julie was inside the apartment. She was dead. The scene was violent, and the details are too painful to repeat graphically. What matters for the investigation is that Julie's death was later ruled a homicide, and a knife was reportedly found near the scene. That knife would become one of the most important unanswered questions in the case. Because in a murder investigation, the weapon can sometimes tell a story that witnesses cannot. It can hold fingerprints. It can hold biological material. It can hold traces that were impossible to fully understand in 1980. But only if it was collected, preserved, and still exists. And that is the question that still hangs over Julie Revson's case today. What happened to the knife? And could it still speak? In the hours and days after Julie's death, investigators began looking for answers. But the apartment offered a mystery that was difficult from the beginning. Authorities reportedly found no signs of forced entry. Neighbors reported hearing no screaming. They reported no obvious sounds of a struggle. No one reported seeing someone leave the apartment. Those details did not prove who was responsible. They did not prove that Julie knew the person who killed her. But they raised questions investigators could not ignore. How did someone get inside? Why was there no clear sign of a forced entry? Why did no one hear anything? And if the person responsible left the weapon behind, What else might have been left behind with it? With no clear leads, investigators focused on the person closest to the scene. Tom Wheelock was taken in and questioned. That kind of police attention can happen in homicide investigations, especially when someone close to the victim is the person who discovers the body. But being questioned by police does not mean someone is responsible, and it does not mean guilt was proven. Tom later told Dateline that it felt clear to him that investigators initially assumed he was responsible. He remembered being questioned intensely. He remembered pressure. He remembered fear. But Tom said he had an alibi. At the time Julie was killed, he said he was playing basketball at Gimbel Gymnasium. Roughly 20 other players, according to the account, could support that claim. The provided information does not show that Tom was ever charged. It does not show that he was convicted. It does not show that any named person was publicly identified as the person responsible. The case moved forward, but without the answer Julie's family needed. Julie's case was assigned to former Philadelphia homicide detective Igor Alfamo. In the months after her death, Tom said Detective Alfamo stayed in contact with him, asking whether he could think of anyone who might have wanted to harm Julie. Tom told investigators about a previous relationship Julie had ended. He said that a prior boyfriend had been unhappy about the breakup. But this detail must be handled carefully. The provided information does not show that this person was charged. It does not prove guilt. It does not identify the person responsible. It is only one detail that Tom said he shared with investigators during the early search for answers. In a cold case, details like that can feel important. But importance is not proof, and suspicion is not justice. There was another detail Tom remembered later, one that felt disturbing in hindsight. Months before Julie's death, around October, Tom said he woke up one morning and found the knives from his kitchen spread out on the living room floor. He remembered telling his landlord, though he could not recall whether he contacted police at the time. He did remember talking about it after Julie was killed. The incident sounds eerie, but whether it was connected to Julie's case remains unknown. It could have meant something. It could have meant nothing. And that is what makes old cases so difficult. The longer time passes, the harder it becomes to separate warning signs from coincidence, memory from evidence, and unanswered questions from actual leads. But one question never went away. Why was a knife reportedly found near Julie? And if that weapon was preserved, why has it not produced an answer? While investigators searched for leads, news of Julie's killing spread quickly through the University of Pennsylvania community. This was not just another crime story in a large city. Julie was a Penn graduate student. She lived near campus. She was part of the university community. Her death frightened people who lived, studied, and worked in the same area. Carol Tracy, who later became known for her work with the Women's Law Project, was working at the Penn Women's Center at the time. She remembered the fear that moved through campus after Julie's death. Students and women in the area were shaken. The apartment building itself also came under scrutiny. In the week after Julie's death, the Daily Pennsylvanian looked into security concerns at the El Vista apartments. Tenants had reportedly complained about broken intercoms, apartment doors without chain locks, and open back doors. Those details do not prove what happened to Julie. They do not prove how the person responsible entered the apartment, but they show the fear and frustration around the case. People wanted answers not only about Julie's death, but about safety. They wanted to know whether more could have been done. They wanted to know whether other students were at risk. Julie's death became part of a larger conversation about women's safety, off-campus housing, and the vulnerability of students living near university neighborhoods. But even as fear spread through campus, another story was taking over Philadelphia. On the same day Julie was killed, mob boss Angelo Bruno was assassinated in South Philadelphia. Bruno's murder was not just another homicide. It became one of the most sensational crimes in the city's history. It drew enormous attention. It was tied to organized crime. It became part of Philadelphia's larger criminal memory. Julie's case did not. Years later, journalist and Penn graduate Matthew Algeo argued that Julie's murder may have been overshadowed by the Bruno assassination. It was, as he later framed it, a case that seemed to slip through the cracks. That does not prove police ignored Julie. It does not prove that media attention would have solved the case. But it does reveal something important about how some cases become famous, while others fade. One murder became a headline. The other became a file. And inside that file was the life of a 25-year-old woman whose family never stopped needing answers. Julie's mother, Ann Revson, lived in Philadelphia at the time. According to the reports, she was too distraught to speak with journalists after Julie's death. Julie was also survived by her sister Elsa and her older half-siblings Ethan and Leslie. Ethan lived in Chicago. His widow, Susan Davis, later remembered how he learned about Julie's death. Reporters from the Philadelphia Inquirer called him for an interview. That was how the news reached him. He was shocked, horrified, unable to believe it. In the days after a homicide, families are often expected to absorb the impossible while the outside world asks questions. Reporters call. Police investigate. Friends try to understand. The victim's name appears in print. But for the family, none of that is the story. The story is the empty chair, the unanswered phone call, the future that ended without warning. Ethan later described Julie as intelligent and trusting. That description carries a quiet pain. It suggests someone open to the world, someone who believed in people, someone who was not expecting danger inside her own life. After the initial shock, members of Julie's extended family later said they did not remember much follow-up from investigators. Susan Davis said they basically did not hear much about it. Rachel Ramstad, Julie's niece, later said no one reached out to her mother, Leslie. For families, silence can become its own wound. A murder is already devastating. But an unsolved murder keeps reopening the same question. Who did this? And why has no one been held responsible? Tom Wheelock also said the updates became more and more sparse. During the year after Julie's death, he called Detective Alfamo occasionally, looking for information. But as time passed, the contact faded. Eventually, Tom moved out of the apartment and returned to classes. The case did not close. It simply stopped moving. No public person of interest emerged in the reports provided. No arrest followed. No trial happened. No verdict came. And for decades, Julie Revson's name remained attached to a case with no ending. That is one of the hardest things about cold cases. They do not always end with a dramatic announcement. Sometimes there is no final press conference, no official explanation, no clear moment when hope disappears. Sometimes the calls just become less frequent. The articles stop appearing. The detectives retire. The witnesses move away. The family grows older. And the evidence, if it still exists, sits somewhere in storage, waiting for someone to look again. Detective Igor Alfamo, who had been assigned to the case, died in 2013. By then, Julie's homicide had already been cold for more than 30 years. But cold does not always mean impossible, because the world of forensic science had changed dramatically since 1980. Back then, investigators did not have the same tools available today. DNA testing was not what it would become in later decades. Touch DNA, improved fingerprint recovery, advanced biological testing, and forensic databases were either not available or not used in the way they are now. That is why the knife matters. If it was preserved, modern testing could potentially look for traces that earlier investigators could not detect or could not interpret. But that sentence contains an important word. If the knife still exists. If it was stored properly. If it was not contaminated. If it can still be tested. If it contains anything useful. Only investigators can answer those questions. But the possibility is enough to keep the case alive. And in 2025, someone who had not known Julie personally began asking why more people were not talking about her. Matthew Algeo, a journalist, author, historian, and University of Pennsylvania graduate, came across Julie's case while looking through old newspaper coverage connected to Philadelphia crime history. He later wrote that he discovered Julie's murder in the same edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer that reported on the Angelo Bruno assassination. That contrast stayed with him. One crime was remembered. One was nearly forgotten. Algeo published a guest column in the Daily Pennsylvanian in September 2025, hoping to renew interest in Julie's case. He wrote not as a detective, but as a journalist and Penn graduate asking a simple question. Was it really too late? The point that stood out to him was the knife. The apparent murder weapon had reportedly been found near Julie. If police still had it, he argued it should be tested for Dina. This was not proof that Dina existed. It was not proof that testing would solve the case, but it was a call to look again. Because sometimes, in a cold case, the difference between silence and movement is public attention. A case can sit for decades until someone asks the right question loudly enough. Where is the evidence? Was it preserved? Can it be tested? And who is responsible for making sure those questions are answered? Algeo said he wrote to Philadelphia officials and agencies, including the district attorney, police commissioner, Penn Police Department, and others. At the time of his column, he said he had not received a response to his suggestion that the knife be tested. Then came a public petition. Its demand was direct: test key evidence in Julie Revson's murder, especially the knife reportedly found near the scene. The petition did not solve the case. It did not identify the person responsible. But it brought the central question into public view. If the weapon was left behind, could it still hold the answer? For decades, Julie's case had been defined by what was missing. No arrest, no conviction, no public person of interest, no clear explanation. But now, attention was returning to what may have been there all along: the evidence. And that is where Julie Revson's case stands today, between the silence of the past and the possibility that modern science may still have something to say. And that is where Julie Revson's case stands today, between the silence of the past and the possibility that modern science may still have something to say. Because cold cases are not always forgotten because there is nothing left to find. Sometimes they are forgotten because no one is asking the question anymore. In Julie's case, the question is not complicated. If a knife was found near the scene, where is it now? Was it preserved? Was it ever tested with modern forensic methods? And if it has not been tested, could it still hold something that was impossible to detect in 1980? Those questions do not accuse anyone. They do not rewrite history. They do not turn speculation into fact. They simply point back to the one piece of evidence that has followed Julie's case for more than 4 decades. The knife. In 1980, forensic science was in a very different place. Investigators could collect evidence, examine fingerprints, compare blood types, and build cases through interviews, timelines, witness statements, and physical clues. But DNA testing was not yet the investigative tool it would later become. Today, cold cases have been reopened because evidence saved years earlier was tested again. A small trace on clothing, a preserved weapon, a biological sample, a fingerprint recovered with better methods, a piece of evidence that once had no answer, suddenly becoming the key to a name. That does not mean Julie's case will be solved. It does not mean the knife contains Dina. It does not mean the evidence still exists. It does not mean the person responsible can still be identified. But it does mean that the question is worth asking. And that is why the public petition mattered. The petition called for DNA testing on key evidence in Julie Revson's murder, especially the knife reportedly found near her body. Its message was simple: after all these years, take another look. Not because the case is easy, not because the answer is guaranteed, but because Julie's life deserves more than silence. The petition also captured something that families and advocates know very well. A cold case can lose momentum when public attention fades. The first days after a homicide can be loud. Reporters call. Police speak to witnesses. Friends share memories. A community reacts. But then another story comes. Another crisis. Another headline. And slowly, the first story moves out of public view. For Julie Revson, that may have happened almost immediately. On the same day she was killed, Philadelphia was shaken by the assassination of Angelo Bruno, a mob boss whose death became part of the city's criminal history. That killing drew attention because of organized crime and the years of conflict it helped unleash. Julie's case was different. She was not a mob figure. She was not part of a public criminal world. She was a graduate student inside her apartment. A young woman whose life ended without explanation. Matthew Algeo later argued that Julie's case may have been overshadowed by the Bruno. That does not prove investigators ignored her case. It does not prove that media attention would have solved it. But it does show how quickly one story can disappear when another story dominates the city. One murder became history. The other became a question. And that question stayed with the people who loved Julie. Tom Wheelock never forgot the woman he cared about. When Dateline asked him what emotions the case still stirred up, his answer was direct: anger, anxiety, and grief for someone he described as bright and good. Julie's niece, Rachel Ramstad, also hoped renewed attention might move the case forward. For her, the point was not simply publicity. It was the chance that someone, somewhere, might still help uncover the truth. That is one of the painful realities of unsolved cases. The people closest to the victim do not just lose someone once. They lose them again every year there is no answer. Every anniversary becomes a reminder. Every new forensic breakthrough in another case raises the same thought. Could that happen here? Could our case be next? Could one piece of evidence finally explain what happened? For Julie's family, those questions have lasted since 1980. Her mother, Anne, lived with the pain of losing a daughter. Her siblings carried the memory of a young woman who was intelligent, trusting, and full of possibility. Her friends remembered her personality, her calmness, her energy, and the future she never got to live. And as the decades passed, the world around the case changed. The University of Pennsylvania changed. West Philadelphia changed. The people who once lived near 4530 Osage Avenue moved on. Students came and went. Buildings remained. Old newspapers became archives. Detectives aged, retired, and died. But the unanswered question stayed in the same place. Who killed Julie Ann Revson?